This meeting is being recorded.
Good afternoon, all. My name's Callum. I'm from the Chamber. We've got this sort of impromptu webinar on, really, in light of the news that's coming out about energy across the UK. I mean, we know that the Black Country is the heart of the manufacturing and critical national supply chains for the UK, and that across the West Midlands, we've got about 76% of manufacturers export, which equates to about 12% of UK exports. So it's a big concern, not only for the West Midlands, but also for us in the Black Country. So we're going to try and do these at least quarterly, or if we hear any breaking news, as we did earlier in January, about the energy bill discount scheme. And we're delighted that Liam, who we've worked with for many years, has given up the time. A little caveat, this is his third one of the day, so please bear with him. And he will leave plenty of time for questions. But really, he's going to sort of update us on what's happening in the wholesale market and about the EBDS scheme and see what we should know. So Liam, without further ado, I shall hand over to you.
Thanks, Callum. Can I just probably suggest that if you're not on mute, just pop yourself on mute, just so we don't get any background noise or feedback or anything like that. So this is the third one today. I've done it for two other trade associations that we work with. So you're either going to get a very polished version or a very tired version, and I apologise if it is the latter. Okay, so just a bit of information for a bit of context, really. So we're the commercial energy partner for the Black Country Chamber, and we support members, admittedly some of the larger members, with their energy procurement strategies. And it has been, it's never been more important that you understand what's going on in the market and what your options are. I think it's fair to say that, the last couple of years, businesses just got by with energy. They needed it on to make stuff or to have the lights on to stay operational. It was never really business priority number one. It definitely is now. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get into the webinar. There isn't any need to, there's a Q&A slot at the end. However, if I'm on a slide or I've said something that you want me to, to really focus on, just take yourself off mute and shout up. No need for anything more formal than that. My details on the front. This is just a slide from the other ones I did. I had a colleague join me. If you'd like to reach out, ask any questions afterwards, I'm always available. So just pick up the phone or drop me an email. Okay, what are we going to cover? So we're going to cover the wholesale market. It has definitely calmed down a lot. It is still crazy. And what should you be considering for 2023 contracts? If you've got contracts due this year, what should be on your agenda and things you need to be aware of? We'll talk about the impact of the energy bill discount scheme, which is, as Callum said, is the new version. So from the 1st of April, this kicks in. I'll cover what it is and also, does it really affect your decision in terms of procurement? And also we'll touch on suppliers' appetite for business. Okay, so what does this squiggly line graph show us? So this is showing us the gas market, and the next slide is the electricity market. Both tell the same picture. If we looked up to the left, that goes back to 2018. And as we look back now, these are the winter and summer prices between winter 18 out until winter 28. Looking back retrospectively, years gone by, looks like pretty plain sailing, calm waters. And that's important in the fact that the message here really is that if you mistimed or didn't do an energy contract at necessarily the best time to do it, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter. It was not going to be business critical. We then scroll through to the right hand side and it becomes evident that there's huge market volatility, huge spikes. And the reason that that's important is that if you're sticking to and doing traditional fully fixed contracts, timing that is virtually impossible, and especially at those absolute spikes, suppliers weren't in the market anyway. And as we go to the real right hand side of that, you've seen that market has softened significantly, still, you know, a lot higher than where we've been previously, but the markets have calmed down. Let's put some of that into context in terms of cost. So you can buy from the wholesale market, you can buy electricity and gas in a number of ways. One of those ways is in summer or winter trading periods. So summer is April until the end of September, and then October until the end of March for winter. Now, at the start of this week, when I put this slide together, if we just look at electricity as the easier one to work out. So summer 23 traded at £164 a megawatt, that's 16.4 pence per kWh, and winter traded at 19 pence per kWh. Now, for that same period, so back in September, so the back end of September, when lots of people had 1st of October renewals, if they were doing fixed price contracts, the supplier would have been looking at those future periods, and what did they look like? Well, end of September, summer was trading at 33.4 and winter was trading at 39.5. So broadly, between the 21st of September and 23rd of Jan, the market has halved. So we were advising clients and new clients that fixing energy at that point was not necessarily a smart decision to do in a traditional fully fixed contract. And we were educating them on the benefits of flexible contracts, which we'll come on to talk about. So what should you be considering for 2023 contracts? So your contract structure, fixed or flex. Now I will say, because I know there's a variety of people on this call, if you consume less than 150,000 kWh per annum, you're not going to be able to get a flexible contract. You're going to have to go fixed. So just bear that in mind as I continue to talk.
Liam, you've gone a bit Dalek-y. You've gone a bit Dalek-y on us, mate.
Any better?
Speak a little bit longer.
Any better? Okay.
Seems it. Give it another go.
Yeah. Okay. So contract structure, fixed versus flex, and we're going to talk about flexible procurement as we move through this. You should be considering what you're prepared to pay and what risk you're willing to take. So it is no longer necessarily about trying to get the lowest price possible. It's about getting to a price that works for you as a business to make sure that you can stay operational. And as a result, what risk you're willing to take either side of that. Who's leading the conversation? Is it you? Is it you on this call? Is it somebody in your business or us as advisors or any other advisor that you may be working with? And I've put that up there because lots of business still operated on my contract's due in April, or my contract's due in October. I'll deal with it a couple of months before. You're going to be dead and buried if that's the strategy moving forward. And if you're implementing energy reduction strategies, so that could be you're consciously using less because you've got, you're a manufacturer and you've got, you're putting on less shifts, or you're doing something like solar. So you're going to put solar on your roof. If you're implementing those strategies, how does that impact the contracts that you're opting for? What I mean by that is, so let's say you're going to put solar on and it's going to reduce your consumption by 30%. That's not really any good to you in a fixed contract, given that your fixed contract will have tolerances that you can use plus or minus on, and you'll be penalised for using less. And again, that's where flexible contracts can kick in, because you can reforecast your consumption. And you also need to understand your credit position early on. So whilst credit was not necessarily an issue historically, it definitely is now, because the exposure is greater to the supplier and the credit insurer. Okay.
Liam,
So
I'm not sure if you can see hands up, mate, but Vicky had her hand up, and I don't know if she wants to come in and say anything.
It just went Daleki when you made the comment about the fixed versus flex. You made a comment about if you're under a certain annual usage, you wouldn't be able to, or you would. Well, I just missed that completely because it broke up. Sorry. Was it 150,000 K?
no problem. So flexible kWh per annum, yeah. So if you use less than 150,000 kilowatts per annum on either electricity or gas, you won't be able to get a flexible contract.
Okay. Thank you. That was all. I just missed that.
That's okay. They're not particularly large supplies. But for example, if you're an office, you're not going to be able to get it. If you're a manufacturer, education facility, hotel, you are.
Yeah, thank you.
That's okay. Okay, so fully fixed contracts. So fully fixed contracts do what they say on the tin. So they fix the commodity and the non-commodity costs for a fixed period of time, typically 1 to 3 years. The commodity cost is the wholesale cost of electricity or gas. Your non-commodity costs are everything else: distribution costs, transmission costs, taxes, levies, all that stuff. When you do a fixed contract, the supplier takes the market forward curve. So let's say you're getting a fixed price today for a contract due to start October. The supplier will price it. What does October onwards look like as of today? And they'll estimate those non-commodity costs, add in some margin and risk. And that's why we're still seeing fixed costs exceptionally high. So opting for this option now would commit to locking in forward volume with significant market risk being built in on the wholesale market and by suppliers. Yes, the wholesale market has dropped significantly, but we're still seeing suppliers price with what I would say excessive margin and risk in it. If you do a fixed contract, you're effectively saying, I'm happy to commit at this price for this duration and this figure works for us. Now, for some businesses, that would be fine. Yes, it won't be pretty, but you can survive, and therefore you may want to do that. But our view is that this approach is broken, and in some cases still remains commercial suicide for businesses to be contracting in this way. Flexible frameworks. So the decision to purchase commodity elements are made by us for you, or if you're large enough, you can make them independently over time, and therefore you don't have to commit all of your volume on one given day. It gives you the ability to make multiple purchases over time, taking into consideration market conditions, budget, and risk. So you're not having to say, right, I've got to get this back by 4 o'clock today, otherwise, the offer's off the table. You're not having to commit all of your volume on one day like you are with a fixed contract. It also gives you the ability to not purchase. It's proven very powerful of late, and take the day ahead price. You may be familiar with that term for that, maybe spot pricing. So you can let your power, either electricity or gas, float on the day ahead market. And I've got some slides on that. For those who are waiting to make a decision because they think it will go down, and I think that's a fair assessment of where we're at currently. A flexible framework will allow you to take advantage of that, given not all of the forward months and seasons are moving unilaterally. So fixed contract, line in the sand, it's priced today, forward looking, but not all of those forward months are moving at the same rates. With a flexible framework, we can be targeted about the months, periods, seasons that we want to purchase, and we don't have to buy all of that volume at one time. So for example, we may say we want to buy 50% of summer 24 for whatever the rationale may be for that decision. So large clients have predominantly managed energy contracts in this way for a long time. A good number of some of the largest chamber members who we work with have managed their purchasing in a flexible purchasing agreement for quite some time. To have an independent strategy, you consume more than 10 million kilowatts of electricity or gas per annum, which is a fair old supply. Now, we created a collective and a basket, so a consortium back in 2018, which basically gave people under that threshold a seat at the table and the ability to get access to a flexible purchasing framework. But unless there's a very strong reason to opt for fixed pricing, we'd be advising to move to a flexible purchasing framework. Excuse me. So, what does this show? So this shows a difference between month ahead markets and day ahead markets of late. The month ahead market is in blue and the day ahead market is in orange. So we have not been advising clients to sort of make any purchases within flexible frameworks because the day ahead market was offering the best value, and you can only get access to that via a flexible framework. Now, for a good number of clients, agreement ahead of October, purchases were made to make sure that the energy bill relief scheme discount was applied to them. But as you'll see, of late, the day ahead market has been significantly lower than the month ahead market. And if we extrapolate that out further, it's significantly lower than the futures market. So that's electricity and that's gas, tells a very similar story. What does that look like in practice? So a flexible framework, so you can sign a flexible framework at any point before the contract start date. The sooner it's signed, the better. That doesn't mean that you're going to start to make purchases, but it means that you're in the consortium should an opportunity present itself. I had lots of people signing up at the 11th hour, which just restricts what you can do. The theory being, so for every month that contract is in place, that's represented by one of the bars here, one of the tubes, and the idea being that you make multiple purchases over time to fill those tubes up. Now, in theory, given the volume that we manage, we could make thousands of purchases over a contract period. And the idea being you don't want to buy at a good time or make multiple purchases, so you're spreading your risk profile. What does that look like month by month? So in this example, you've got first purchase at 20% of volume at £100 per megawatt, that's 10p. Second purchase at 60% of volume at £70 per megawatt, and a third purchase 20% of volume at £60 per megawatt. Now, these purchases could be made days apart, weeks apart, months apart, in some cases perhaps years apart. What you actually see on your bill in that example would be £74 per megawatt, so 7.4 pence per kWh. So it's a weighted average price of that volume at the purchase price. Okay, the impact of the energy bill discount scheme. So does that really affect your decision? I'll give you my very short answer.
Liam, sorry.
Does it affect your decision? Absolutely. The scheme, yep.
Sorry, mate, we went really Dalek-y since you turned this slide on again.
Okay, is it back?
Yep.
Okay, I tell you, I'm just going to stop my video. You can still see the screen, yeah?
We can still see the slides, yes.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So the Energy Bill Relief Scheme, which is the government support package covering October to March. So it gave businesses a degree of breathing space, and it was well received. So some of the support packages were very good. And the reality is that if that scheme wasn't put in place, businesses would not have survived winter. It's as simple as that. The new support package, which is the Energy Bill Discount Scheme, which is effective from the 1st of April, is nowhere near as generous, and given where the markets currently are, won't even come into play. So does it affect your decision? No. I'll expand on that then. So from the 1st of April, what does the Energy Bill Discount Scheme look like? So for electricity, if the wholesale price exceeds 30.2 pence per kWh, a maximum discount of 1.961 pence per kWh will be applied. To give you an idea, that's broadly double where the current market is. So things are going to have to go significantly south, north, whichever way you want to put it, to get up to those levels there for the discount to even be applied. And the reality is, if we do get up there, 1.961 is going to be neither use nor ornament. Gas, if the wholesale price exceeds 10.7 pence per kWh, a maximum discount of 0.697p will be applied. To give you an idea, the energy bill discount scheme is about 85% worse than the energy bill relief scheme. So it shouldn't be affecting any decisions in terms of future procurement. There are some additional levels of support. So, and that's via energy and trade intensive users. The threshold for when the support kicks in is lower and you get more of a support. You can find out if you make goods. The link is there, which I know will be circulated afterwards. Essentially, if your SIT code isn't qualifying, you aren't able to get the additional discount, which you have to apply for anyway. But again, the market is lower than where the support would kick in currently. Okay, just final slide, suppliers' appetite for business. There are nowhere near as many suppliers in the market. That isn't to say, they're not here because they've gone bust. It is because they're not really open for business. They're not keen to have business. Having volume on their books is more of a risk now, and they're very selective in a type of business that they want, and that's typically led by consumption profile or credit. And we're seeing huge differences between suppliers on fixed prices, really because they don't know how to price it, or my guess is that they're just pricing themselves out because they don't want the business. So my overall message is, if you consume more than 150,000 kWh per annum, you really should be exploring flexible purchasing. If you're under that, I would probably suggest that you do no more than a 12-month fully fixed contract. I'll stop sharing. Apologies for my internet. I'm not too sure what's going on. I'll stop sharing. I'll hand back to Callum to field any questions. I'm happy to answer those as best I can.
Thanks, Liam. Appreciate it. So, open to the floor, please. Any questions? Do anyone want any more data going back on the slides repeated?
Can I ask a question? How, we're all busy people, how user-friendly or low maintenance is the flexible scheme? How much will I have to track it? And if I went down that route for my business, how would that, what would that mechanism be?
Yeah, so in theory, pretty easy for you really, because you're handing over the management of that to us, particularly if you're part of the consortium. So the consortium, the decisions are made by us for you and the several hundred other clients that are within this particular consortium. We validate the invoices to a tolerance of plus or minus 5p every month, so we know that they're correct. I think it's fair to say that of late, suppliers are an absolute nightmare. We've got clients who haven't been in, not just us personally, but the sector, the world we're operating in. Some suppliers haven't invoiced people for 6 months or so. It's just bonkers. So, we can't get away from the fact that suppliers are just overall difficult to deal with. However, there is no responsibility on you to make those purchases at all. It's led by us to manage it. And actually, if you think about it, which is the point being that now the energy for lots of businesses makes up a much bigger part of their business in terms of the decision-making process. The reality is most people don't want to be dealing with it at all anyway. So it's handing it to somebody to manage it properly. So short answer, you're really not going to have to get that involved
One
at all.
question for me is, and what period of time would I have to sign up to for that flexible arrangement?
So the flexible contracts, electricity goes until March 26 and gas is until October 26. And that really is, the difference between that and a fixed contract is simply, I wouldn't be recommending anybody sign a fixed contract out that far, but the difference being you've got a fixed contract versus a framework. And all you're saying there is, let's say you've got a contract due April, I'm going to sign a contract due to start April, go out until March or October 26. And I will tell the supplier when we would like to make purchases for that volume period. So all you're saying is, whoever the supplier is, you're going to be my supplier for that period of time, and I'm going to tell you when the purchases will be made. Just to cover one other point on that, in case people think, what if we're not around in however many months or years time? It's exactly the same as a fixed contract. Let's say you're in a 3-year framework agreement or fixed contract agreement, 6 months down the line, you're not there in business for whatever reason, whatever shape or form, contracts are void because you're only responsible for the energy when you are responsible for the energy. So there's no reason not to do a longer term agreement from that point of view. And the other thing is that, just to give you some idea, so clients of ours who joined the consortium, so they were sort of our mid-range clients under that 10 million kilowatt threshold, who joined the consortium back in 2018, we purchased all of their volume in 2020 COVID lockdowns out until 2026. So you've got clients for electricity paying less than 5p out until 2026, and you've got gas 1.6, 1.7 out until 2026. So you want a long-term framework so that if an opportunity does arise, you've got the ability to act quickly at that targeted period.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Simon. We had a question from someone who couldn't be on the call, Liam. When will prices reduce, as the spot price of gas on the international market is now down to the level of September 21, and the fall is predicted to continue as usage and demand falls due to the global economic slowdown? I imagine if you could answer this correctly, you'd be on a beach somewhere rather than on a Zoom call.
Indeed. I'm not sure I agree with the opening bit of it either about it down to levels of 21. It's just not. It's about 3 times higher. So, where to start with that one? There's a disparity between what's happening on the wholesale market and how suppliers are pricing fixed contracts. That's definitely the case. Broadly, as a general rule of thumb, you're probably seeing gas, a difference between what's actually going on in the market versus how suppliers are pricing, maybe 2p per kWh, and electricity 4 to 5p probably difference, which is significant. When do I think prices are going to go back to previous levels? My answer is I don't think they are. If I was to stick my neck out and say, what do I think the new normal would look like? Although you're recording this, so maybe I shouldn't say that. I reckon high 5s is probably going to be the new normal for the next 2 years or so in terms of gas. And I reckon all in for electricity, you're probably going to be looking high 20s, low 30s as the new normal. Now that is significantly higher than most people have been paying over the last few years, but it's a hell of a lot less than how bad it did get. You were seeing electricity contracts going out at above £1 per kWh for people coming off contracts at 12, 13, 14p, and you were seeing gas contracts go out 27, 28p at absolute peak. People coming off 2p was probably about par. So I don't know if that really answers that or not. I think the other thing I would say is that the only market which is coming off quicker is the day ahead or the month ahead market, because we know more about today for tomorrow's delivery and next month's delivery. The futures market has still got so much risk and unknown built into it that it goes back to, if you're doing a fixed price contract, a supplier is just looking at as of today, what does that futures market look like? Well, the short-term price might be okay in inverted commas, but further out, it's still got a hell of a lot of risks built into it. Whereas in a flexible product, you can pick and choose that.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
I think there are a few, but was there another question? Can we get a copy of the slides? Yes, you've already answered that.
Yeah, that's good. It'd be interesting to know, as you know, the Chamber, we believe in evidence-led advocacy, and when we get the opportunity to report to the Combined Authority, to BAYS, to British Chambers, etc. Be interesting to know from anyone on the call who's got an opinion on this, on their views on the energy bill discount scheme. Is it going to be enough to give you the confidence that there isn't a cliff edge come the end of March, or is it still just as concerned as you were before January?
From my point of view, the figures that Liam's just stated in his slides is insignificant, really. It's not going to make much difference at all to our predicament.
Thanks, Simon. We'll keep feeding this back, and I think Andy Street is particularly aware of this across the West Midlands. Any other comments? Vicky, does this affect you guys at all? I think Vicky may have had to drop off, actually. Anyone else want to comment on that?
I think just one final bit for me is that the energy broker, advisor, consultant market, call it what you will, is plagued full of sharks, cowboys. It's like the Wild West, it really is. If you have to deal with energy as your business, you'll know that by how many times you're called on a daily basis by probably a broker based up in the northeast saying you've got to do something now, otherwise the world's going to end tomorrow. Be very, very careful about the advice that you take. None of us have got a crystal ball, but you need to be aware of A, your options, B, do your due diligence, and C, that you're comfortable with the level of commission fee that you're paying for that advice. Now, everybody's paying for it in some way, shape or form, typically in management fees or uplifts in the unit rates that brokers put to you. But if you're being hounded to sign something, particularly a fixed contract that looks terrible, it's probably compounded by the fact that that broker is also putting in a load of hidden commission that you're not aware about as well.
Brilliant. Any further questions? Otherwise, we've given ourselves a bit of time back, which is always nice. No, well, Liam, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. As I say, we'll try and do this more regularly as and when we hear things, so we can just keep on top of it. We don't need to labour the point. If we can get it done in half an hour, fantastic. If any of you want an introduction, just let me know. You can come back via the booking system, or we'll send out the slides. We've got this now on video. Liam has also got a more professional sort of one on your platform, you said, Liam, yeah, that we could send the link to.
Slightly more professional.
Slightly more professional.
I won't go as far as to say professional, but yeah, slightly more.
Yeah, well, we'll always do it best. That's brilliant. Okay, ladies and gents, thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon, and catch up with you next time. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Very fine.